Hello, my topic is overanalyzing the ethics of Batman. Specifically, I will be focused on the Batman movie Batman Begins. This is the first Batman movie of the series that is directed by Christopher Nolan, and Batman/Bruce Wayne is portrayed by Christian Bale. Batman Begins tells the origins of Batman. It explains how Batman became the hero that we now know today. By highlighting significant moments and lessons that he has learned as a kid, allows the audience to understand how his principles of Batman formed. It also shows his struggles as an adult that have had a major influence on Bruce becoming Batman and adopting the principles that he decides to adopt. To the left is a picture of DC Comics logo. DC Universe is a publisher of Batman. It's similar to how the Avengers belong to Marvel. The character Batman belongs to the DC Universe. And to the right is the movie picture title for Batman Begins. This is a brief overview of the topics that we will be focusing on. So we have utilitarianism, which states that the morally correct action to do is the one that produces the most benefits or desirable outcomes to the greater scope, the greater amount of people. Secondly, we have deontology. It says that people should follow a set of rules and obligations and morals to make ethical choices. And lastly, we have egoism, which claims that an individual person should focus on and act according to what will produce the most utility or the most desired outcome for that person. This is an overview of how the topics from the previous slide apply to Batman. So we have utilitarianism. An example of this would be that Batman considers all of his options and chooses the one that creates the most utility, the most benefits. Batman is very methodical and strategic and takes into account all of the consequences of his actions and acts based on what will give him the most desirable outcome. He considers Gotham City as a whole and wants the whole city to be better for all of its citizens. And so, with that being said, he makes each decision in the interest of the greater scope, the more amount of people. Next, we have deontology. And Bruce Wayne and Batman abide by certain rules that he doesn't compromise, that he doesn't break. And so, one of those rules is that Batman will not kill anyone, regardless of anything. Regardless of any consequences, he won't kill anyone. Lastly, we have egoism, which Batman doesn't really align himself with egoism. He actually kind of does the opposite of what egoism says. He makes sacrifices for the better interest of Gotham City. However, you can also counter that since his mission is to make Gotham City better, and he does take pleasure in that, Batman is acting in his own interest as well as for others. The first philosophy that we will be talking about is utilitarianism, and as a reminder, that claims that the morally correct act is the one that produces the most benefits or desired outcomes for the most amount of people. Gotham City is overruled by corruptness and criminals, and Batman's objective is to make Gotham a better place by eliminating those criminals and that corruptness off of the streets of Gotham. By accomplishing this, he is providing a better city for the citizens of Gotham to live in. The Waynes are very wealthy, and before Bruce's parents died, they were trying to improve the city as well. They would donate some of their money to the community, like charities and stuff, and they also had a company, Wayne Enterprises, which would build technologies to help improve the city, such as they had built a train system where Wayne Enterprises was the center of it all, and so they had a train system going throughout the city. And so that's one of the examples of what the Wayne family did. So by this, the Wayne family would support utilitarianism theory because their goal was to produce the most benefits for a greater amount of people in the city. There are two umbrellas of utilitarianism. The first is act utilitarianism, and that states that we should make each decision based on the amount of utility that it creates. Each criminal that he takes on and defeats leaves the city better off, and so he doesn't let a bike thief go just because he's not on the same level of Joker kind of deal. And so with each criminal he encounters, he takes them each very seriously and doesn't let any of them go. No matter what they did, he's still gonna take them down and defeat them and put them in jail so that the citizens of Gotham can be better off and there's less crime in the city. In each part of the fight, he chooses his actions very carefully and methodically so that he doesn't harm any bystanders or himself, and that he also doesn't cause a whole lot of damage. He tries to minimize the damages that results from the fight. And so in the picture, he is he's leaving a building that's swarmed by the SWAT team who's trying to go after him. But he also has Rachel, his childhood friend, who he's trying to save, but she only has a limited amount of time that he can save her. And so he chose to call in his bats to use as a distraction to get out of the building, where he could have done other options, but by calling in the bats, he didn't cause any harm to any of the SWAT team agents, but he also was able to get out of there safely and be able to meet Jim Gordon, who had the woman, Rachel, so that he could save her. Second is rule utilitarianism, and so that is, instead of basing our decisions off of individual acts, we're going to base it off of the overall. So this is going to support moral principles, whereas act utilitarianism bases decisions on specific circumstances, so that may vary with each one, whereas rule utilitarianism is going to support moral principles and rules, so it'll be not as situational specific. It's going to say killing is wrong, and that's it. There's no excuses to killing, it's just wrong. Whereas with act utilitarianism, depending on the situation, it may be the morally correct thing to do. Batman himself has a rule that he is not going to kill anybody. His goal is to inflict justice on all of Gotham's criminals. However, to accomplish his goal, he's not going to end up killing anyone because he finds it morally wrong. And so that's going to be part of his moral principle, that killing is wrong, and so he's not going to do it. And rule utilitarianism will say that no matter the consequences or the circumstances, killing is wrong, and so no matter what, Batman will not kill anybody. Batman doesn't use any firearms, like guns or rifles, pistols. He doesn't use any guns. Instead, he uses very high-tech weaponry that he got from Wayne Enterprises. And none of the weapons that he uses will kill any of his enemies. It'll hurt them maybe, but it won't kill them. The picture shows Mr. Fox, who is a Wayne Enterprise employee, and he helps Bruce by supplying equipment for Batman. So like the Batmobile and his utility belt and stuff like that. So each weapon that he chooses to fight criminals with, he has to consider what gives him the most amount of benefits, but also safety, because he doesn't want to kill any of his enemies. But he still needs to be able to fight them. Rachel Dawes, who is played by Katie Holmes, is a childhood best friend of Bruce Wayne. And they continue to be friends into adulthood. And so she's had a major influence on Bruce's morals, which she incorporates to Batman. To deceive the public from figuring out that the true identity of Batman is Bruce decided to act like the stereotypical rich guy. And so before Rachel knew Bruce's secret identity, that he is Batman, she essentially tells him that the actions of a person is what matters the most. This applies to utilitarianism because it considers the consequences of one's actions. She implies that doing good actions is what makes somebody good, not the character. So being a good person doesn't really mean that you're good. It's the actions that make you good. And so she's also saying that the action should benefit others in a positive way, not just himself. That being said, she would oppose the third topic that we're going to talk about, egoism. She would disagree with individuals focusing and acting in their own interest. She has ideals that people should help Gotham. Gotham is not lost, and that there are good people in Gotham, and they're worth saving and helping. There are many objections to utilitarianism that we will be addressing and applying to Batman. The first objection is the no rest objection, or moral saint. The argument is that applying utilitarianism is not realistic because people will spend all of their time, money, and resources on other people and won't have any time for themselves. This is true in that Bruce Wayne improves the city in daylight through various donations to the community and uses his company to rebuild Gotham and make it better. And by night, he's Batman fighting criminals to improve the city. So he's always helping the city day and night and rarely has time for himself. But he does enjoy and get pleasure from what he does by helping his city out, because that's his main goal. The integrity objection rejects utilitarianism on the account that being fully utilitaristic means that an individual may be required to go against their personal beliefs to achieve the most utility. A major controversy is about killing somebody for the better or more desired outcome. The softer Bernard Williams would agree with Batman in terms of killing is wrong. However, he would be critical in analyzing Batman as a utilitarian because he would say that killing the criminals would produce the most amount of utility. And because Batman doesn't kill his criminals, he's therefore not reaching the most amount of utility that he can. However, in Batman's final battle with Ra's al Ghul, he doesn't directly kill him, but still obtains maximum utility because Ra's is likely to die from the crash. The chances of him surviving that crash is very slim. And so, by not saving Ra's, he didn't compromise his morality, his moral principles. And the link shows the final battle between Ra's al Ghul and Batman. It is the scene that I'm referencing within the slide. The justice objection declines utilitarianism because it argues that justice is not taken into account. Instead, it supports what is most beneficial, but not necessarily the most just action. In the movie, we see Bruce struggle with what justice is. He and Rachel have a debate on what it means to be just. While Bruce takes on a more utilitarianistic and egoist perspective, Rachel's viewpoint is against what utilitarianism would say. It tells Bruce that justice is about harmony, revenge is about making yourself feel better. With this, she is emphasizing the importance of justice. She is telling Bruce that revenge is not justice, but it is for self-fulfillment, which is what egoism is primarily concerned with. The second philosophy is deontology, which claims that people should obey a set of rules or principles when making ethical decisions. In the article, we're given the example that we can intend to kill and even try to kill someone without killing him, and we can kill him without intending or trying to kill him, as when we kill accidentally, end quote. And so this aligns with Batman's actions to not save Ra's in the crash of the train at the very end of the fight, or at the end of the final battle. By doing this, he doesn't directly kill him. However, by not saving Ra's, the chances of surviving are very slim. The picture is the scene where Ra's al Ghul brings out a criminal for Bruce to execute in the name of justice, or at least what the League of Shadows considers justice. Bruce is commanded to execute the criminal to prove his loyalty to the League, but Bruce refuses to break his morals, and so he does not kill the man. This aligns with deontology because he's established his moral principles by now, and so he's established his rule that he will not kill anybody. And so when faced upon this command to kill this criminal, to execute him, he decides not to. He makes the ethical choice to not kill the criminal. And the YouTube link is the scene that I'm referring to in the slides. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher who is heavily associated with deontology, and he believed that people, no matter what their personal beliefs were, would come to the conclusion of right and wrong through their own reasoning. And so he was kind of right in the sense that Bruce was in a bad place, but he did eventually come to the conclusion of what was right and what was wrong, that killing was wrong. And so, but Bruce didn't come to this conclusion on his own. He had many outside influence, such as his parents before they had died, had taught him a lot of his principles, and Rachel, who he had debated about what revenge and justice were. And also, Ra's actually kind of influenced him. Ra's al Ghul had taken it to the extreme that he was going to try and eliminate all of Gotham City and its civilians because he thought it was too corrupt to save, and that the criminals had too much influence, that it wasn't worth saving. Although Bruce had eventually came to the conclusion that killing is wrong, for a while he was confused about what was right and what was wrong. He had the intentions of killing the man who had murdered his parents after the hearing that had released him, the criminal. And the reason he didn't kill him was because somebody else had beat him to it. Somebody else had killed him before Bruce could get to him. The third and final philosophy is egoism, and we will be discussing ethical egoism and psychological egoism. Although these do differ from each other, they both focus on an individual's self-interest and well-being. One could argue that Bruce is Batman for Bruce's own self-interest. It is his goal to improve the city, and he finds pleasure in doing so, and he likes to become Batman. In the movie, before Batman, and before any training, before the League of Assassins, Bruce hides himself in the world and fights many criminals just for the thrill of it. On the other hand, being Batman risks Bruce's interests. It risks his own well-being. As Batman, he has a goal that's in the interest of Gotham City and its citizens. Ethical egoism says a person is obligated to choose according to that individual's best interest, regardless of anybody else. However, this does not imply a person should be selfish, a person is able to receive pleasure by helping others. An example is Bruce Wayne benefits the most when he is Batman. Regardless of the citizens and the city's well-being, he gets pleasure out of being Batman. He wants to help people and he wants his city to be better. And by being Batman, he gets pleasure from it because he is working on accomplishing his goals and his desires. The image is showing Batman saving Bruce's childhood friend, Rachel Dawes. Psychological egoism states that people act in their own self-interest. It explains people's tendency to act for their own benefit, and Batman's actions actually kind of goes against the theory of psychological egoism, because Batman isn't acting on his own benefit, but for the benefit of the city and its citizens. Batman is actually compromising himself, his well-being, for the greater good of others. Based on psychological egoism, he shouldn't be fighting criminals. Instead, he should be avoiding them, this way that he's not in harm's way and is benefiting himself. We finally have the works cited for the project. The first citation is a periodical explaining deontology, and the second is the movie, Batman Begins. It's what I used to base the Batman off of, and I referenced it throughout the entire presentation. The third citation is a presentation given by Professor Larry Chonko at the University of Arlington, where he discusses the different type of ethical theories. The fourth citation is a periodical explaining utilitarianism. Number 5 is a website that counter-argues points that are made by utilitarianism. Number 6 is a YouTube video of a scene that I referenced. Number 7 is another YouTube video that I referenced. Number 8 is part of a book that gives Pojman's perspective on utilitarianism. And number 9 is another periodical, but it's explaining egoism. And number 10 is a chapter from a textbook.